All right, we are live. What's up?
What's up?
There we go. You know we make it loud to start the
Yes.
show. You gotta
Yeah,
let the people know we're here. We're small, but we're scrappy and we're loud. You know what
we're
I mean?
small, but we're loud. We're like cicadas, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
We're very, very
It's
loud. We live underground.
it's like the Roadrunner Bugs Bunny type of thing. Like we're like the little guy, and they're like holding our head, and we're like,
Uh-huh.
you know,
And I'm like meep meep, and I zip, I
exactly.
zip, I zip. How's everyone feeling tonight? Welcome to the Biased Cut. It is the very first fashion podcast that exists on the internet, and it also won the Guinness World Record for the very first podcast in every category to be
Mhm.
hosted by two losers, complete loser idiots.
And
We
that's
both,
only it's only because we shelled out like the 10 grand to get one of those Guinness people to come
yes,
out and do it for us.
and they were we had like negotiated a completely different record,
Right.
and they were like, no, 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 first podcast hosted by losers.
Yeah, we
uh
were we were gonna be this first fashion people. That's what we
yeah,
thought we were getting, but they were
yeah,
like, no, no, Diet
no,
Prada
no,
already got that.
yeah, and I think that if you didn't throw eggs at the guy at that one point, I think things might have panned out different,
Yeah.
but you're I don't know, you're
Listen,
like,
it was a judgment call. It was a bad one. I
yeah,
don't
I'll
know how many
say.
more times I can apologize to you. Uh you know.
Well, yeah. In case you're wondering or listening, my name's Christian. My co and equal host is Killian, and
Yes.
we talk about fashion on this podcast and whatever else kind of enters our atmosphere.
Yeah.
And I just want to let people know I have a different mic today. I hope it's
Mm,
better.
I
We'll
like it
see.
more. I think
Yeah.
it's better.
Let me
Well,
know in the
well,
comments.
yeah, and by the way, everybody, if you're listening to this after the fact, we do this live every Thursday
Yes.
at 8 p.m. Eastern. You could be here with us. We're reading chat messages right now. Like Blanks says that I've got a 2010 rapper fit, which is very, very accurate.
Straight up. That's the hat that you talked about last episode, isn't it?
Indeed, it is. And I have a short on my channel reviewing it. It was not worth a video. It was worth a 60-second short review, but
Cool.
it's very good. I think it's a fantastic hat for a great price.
Wow.
Yeah, that's an
That
even
was,
shorter review than 60 seconds. You're getting it
yeah.
right here, right now.
They say brevity is the soul of wit.
Right.
Actually, they say. I came up with that. That's my quote. That's a undercover times somebody, right?
Yeah, Supreme Undercover.
Okay, Supreme undercover hat. In case you're
Mhm.
not watching, it's a black cap with like a little Supreme thingy, not Supreme, a little like a tag that looks very undercover, and it's got studs on the bill. Like, imagine you walked into Hot Topic in the years 2010 and you picked up a belt.
There you go.
Yeah,
They did
bingo.
a legitimately good job, though. Like the
Yeah,
patching is really nice. It's like a worn, faded canvas type of
cool.
material. Like there was legitimate thought put into this, which I respect and appreciate. You know.
Do you want to talk about the rest of your outfit while we got you? Like, what's that fuzzy hoodie?
Please. So this fuzzy hoodie, I'm so glad you asked. I'm wearing a big black fuzzy hoodie. This is the one and only Mike Amiri piece I own.
Oh, okay.
I'm just gonna
I
leave
mean,
the hood up for the episode. Now
it
that I've
looks
admitted that it's
comfy.
Amiri.
It looks comfy.
It's it
Uh,
so this is my always been my thing with Amiri. I think Mike Amiri is goofy. Just straight goofy as all hell, okay? Um, and I think in general, it's tacky and just like not good clothing. But every once in a while, when I'm like just browsing, the internet, there will be like one Amiri piece that you come across and you're like, why is that hard? You know what I
yeah.
mean?
I'll confession time.
Yeah.
This was probably like 7 years ago. But when I
Okay.
was working in resale, and I was working at a chain of boutiques, and we'd get stuff in all the time from rich people who live in the city.
Mhm.
And we got a Mike Amiri piece. I didn't know what it was at first, but it was a drug rug. like
Oh
think about
yeah.
your local rug. So it
Hmm.
was like red kind of pattern. It was like a boxy cut kind of drug rug thing. But
Hmm.
what usually drug rugs are like made out of hemp. This was like made out of some like cashmere blend.
Right.
And there was something, I have to admit, there was something appealing about how that low high thing where like
Yeah.
you touched it and you were immediately like, oh, this is like a luxury. I did not expect that. Minor props, tiny props I will give.
So I
Okay.
this literally just I'm so glad we're talking about Amiri. I love talking about the weird nature of Amiri. Just this past week, I was scrolling on Instagram and he posted like a baseball jersey, but it was all patchwork and like you could see every stitch, probably like 100 different little patches making up this baseball shirt. And that's always been my thing with Amiri. There'll be these pieces where I'm like, it looks like the best craftsmanship ever. Like it looks like, Dior, Louis Vuitton, like high runway craft, but it's put into the shittiest looking stuff. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yes. And I mean, I think it's obvious, but just for everybody listening or watching, maybe you're new to fashion. So let me
Mhm.
explain it. Micah
Please.
Mary is a primarily menswear luxury brand, came out of nowhere, I think, at the 2010s. My my qualms are that Micah Mary, like, legitimately is just a ripoff of Saint Laurent Paris, a la the same era. They just do the same thing. And I think that that's kind of corny.
Right.
That's my take. What about your chain? Is that Cuban
Y-
link?
Yeah, the chain, this is random identities.
Okay, sure,
Yeah.
dude.
Uh
I know them.
I respect uh affordable, it's like affordable but good stuff, like interesting designs. I believe I'm blanking on his name right now, but he
Yeah,
was
that guy, that designer,
that
Italian
designer.
guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He started this
Um.
brand that just makes stuff for way cheaper than anybody else, but looks like all the big expensive stuff. You know what I mean? I've got
Yes.
I've Christian, by the way, for the listeners, Christian ran off. He's rummaging about in his closet and
Hold on.
he's come up empty.
Just wait. Just wait. Just wait.
Oh, okay. We're waiting. We're
Bam.
waiting.
Bam.
Okay. Okay. So yeah, random identities, doing like high end looking designs, but you can go on Essence, especially during Essence sales. You'll get like a really nice piece for like $60 or something that looks like it should cost 1,000, I would say. Um, yeah, just one of those brands. There we go. Thank you so much. Sushio, the designer used to be at Yves Saint Laurent.
So obviously somebody misplaced my coat, and it
Somebody.
wasn't Christian.
Mhm.
I have a Random Identities raincoat that I
Oh,
love. I wear it all the time,
hell yeah.
and I think Caroline, my love interest, she got it for me a few birthdays ago. But
Mhm.
I think, and this is no dishonor to her. I think it was on sale at Essence, and it's like
Mhm.
those pieces go on sale for like $200,
Yeah,
and they are mm, really good. It's really
exactly.
nice stuff, made in Italy. I love
Mhm.
the cut. People compliment it all the time.
I'll do
Yeah.
my one other. So I've got this chain and the one other random identities piece I have. We're lucky that it happens to be right next to me. I've got this like quilty puffer boy from them as well. All right. So I'm so glad we got right off the bat with some spice with Amiri. But do you want to get into our first official rabbit ear quote unquote topic for the day?
Sure, you lead.
All right, I will lead. We're gonna talk about Heaven. Heaven
Heaven
by Marc
is a
Jacobs.
place
Damn right. So
where nothing. Okay, go ahead.
Heaven is kind of everywhere right now. It's like just insane. It's insane to me how big this brand has gotten. This, I don't know. I mean, technically a diffusion line, right? Um, do you want to enlighten us on what Heaven is, who Marc Jacobs is, anything like that?
I guess maybe. So
Please.
obviously, or maybe not obviously, Marc Jacobs is a designer. He came up in the 1990s in New York City. I pretty sure he was the creative director for Perry Ellis, and That was when he did like his first like actual like grunge show.
Mhm.
People credit Marc Jacobs for introducing grunge into fashion, which at the time was seen as like anti-fashion. Um, had his own label, Hot
Mhm.
Deal. He was the first clothing creative director at Louis Vuitton.
Mhm.
And he now just kind of chills. He kind of hangs. Sometimes he gets fits off if you like pay attention to the internet. He seems to like Rick.
True.
And Rick Owens. And if you guys are watching on screen, there's a hint to that. Um, and I don't know. I guess like how would you describe Marc Jacobs in his entirety? Very New York kind of
Man.
brand. And
Yeah.
he has always been like connected to kind of a rebel or youth, maybe even very 90s energy. I think that
Yeah.
has kind of permeated his work. He often does stuff that's kind of postmodern, like
Mhm.
saying like the Marc Jacobs bag, Jacob bag thing. Um, and yeah.
Yeah, my way into Marc Jacobs before I ever knew anything about clothing at all. My first like real girlfriend that I had as an adult,
Hmm.
Marc Jacobs was her favorite designer, and this was kind of
Interesting.
like a like an alt punk type of girl, you know what I mean? So that
Okay.
kind of tells you something about the vibe that he was known for and kind of helped popularize. But I feel like uh when I came into fashion, he was maybe at his lowest point.
Mm.
If I had to say, it feels like
Yeah.
there was a dark period, a fallow period there, you
Yes.
know?
If and I don't actually, I think I would have to do more research to actually
Mhm.
make sense of this. But I feel like what happened with Marc Jacobs is he became accredited, credited in the high fashion world.
Mhm.
And the thing with like, I think this is a New York and American brands thing. When they get some money, they go, I don't care about the art. I want
Yes.
money. And then they immediately
Yes.
do a million diffusion lines. And like
Mhm.
Marc Jacobs, I think a few years ago was as spread out as possible. Like they had
Yeah.
multiple lines, they were just pumping out anything. And I think that for a period of time, people, I think, didn't value it as much.
Yeah.
But
He was
like
doing
they
like
have,
the Michael Kors a little bit.
yeah, he was very much Michael Korsing it.
Right.
But they've since truncated a lot of those collections.
Mhm.
And I've seen, then there was like the, I forget what it's called, but there was like a diffuse, not a diffusion, but like a higher level diffusion he started doing as of recent. Can't even think of the name
Is
of
that
it.
like the things or no? Because I know there's like a certain there's like the Marc Jacobs kind of like runway, and then I feel like there's a level where it's like the Marc Jacobs, and it's like the tote bag, the sweater. You know what I mean?
Yeah, sorry. I was just trying to respond. We had this one guy in the comments, Serious
Oh,
Slav, and he was trying to troll us, but I don't want him to leave. Like, don't leave, dude. Keep trying. Keep throwing insults at us. He was saying that maybe we don't like girls, which, as
oh
we
no!
know, in fashion is
Oh,
is a very serious offense. And we'll get to it. I just wanted you to hold that idea because we were going to talk about
right, right.
whether or not I like girls.
That's interesting though. If we can take a moment on this, where do you think the troll came from?
Um, I don't know. I mean, it could have came from anywhere. Is he still here? No,
I
Ice
don't know.
Spice is hot. I
Oh,
don't know. I mean, Meme Saint Laurent, maybe.
oh, maybe,
Yeah.
maybe.
Um.
So
Okay. Sorry. Let's get back onto Marc
all
Jacobs.
good. So I think when I came into fashion, he was at this low point, and then things start kind of bubbling back up. You see more and more people talking about it, more and more influencers, celebrities getting off Marc Jacobs fits. And then I remember when he launched Heaven, which
Uh
is
huh.
his latest, smash hit diffusion line. And I remember thinking it was a bad move. I
Why?
remember thinking like he's finally getting it rolling. He's making his name for himself as like a high fashion designer again, as opposed to the Michael Korsing it, where you're just
Yeah.
flashing your name on everything. I thought a diffusion line was not the right move at that time. And this is why I don't get paid big bucks to consult in fashion, because it was a great idea, apparently.
Dummy.
Yeah.
Everybody's talking about it. I mean, there was the fashion lover. He did a video maybe 2 months ago or something like
Mhm.
that, talking about it. It's definitely buzzed about right now. And I think it's interesting. I will say that at least aesthetically and like on the face of it, I think it makes a lot of sense. If like Marc Jacobs is doing what kind of appears like 90s rave inspired type of aesthetic, like
Mhm.
Y2K brand, that seems like it's 100% up his alley.
Right.
That's like his jurisdiction
Mhm.
originally. But there's mixed reactions. There's mixed reactions.
Yeah, he did pretty recently. He did like a Deftones collaboration. And I was like,
Oh,
damn, that is the
really?
most fitting thing I've ever seen in my life. It's genius, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. And do you want to like kind of how else would you might describe the aesthetic and like the brand if there's anything
The,
else you could throw in?
the aesthetic is, I feel like it's maybe equal parts grunge and Y2K as well. It's
Yeah.
kind of like straddling both of those because, and we'll get into this in a second, I'm sure. You see Michelle here, very grungy, almost like Kurt Cobain sweater, hyper distressed. And
Yeah.
even just off to the left here, Ice Spice, that is not grungy. That's Y2K, big
Hmm.
platform boots like stars, kind of
The
almost
slip
disco.
dress. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
100%. And can you just because
Mhm.
obviously we prepare for the podcast, but sometimes maybe we don't. What is the
Mhm.
price point? What is the price point for this stuff?
So the price point, let's check it. I don't want to get anything extra wrong, but I would say it's like accessible premium fashion would be my thought.
Premium.
I'm guessing a sweater would be what, like 250. That
So kind of like the brand we were just talking about, the Italian brand,
random identities, right?
Random Identities. Yeah, priced in the same way. Is Heaven on Essence?
I can what?
Oh no, dude, you're wasting
That's
our time.
insane.
Sorry for all of our listeners. Right now, Killian is frantically searching for a
uh,
heaven.
where
There's
where
a
where are their
place.
stockists?
I
Okay,
don't know. I
a
mean,
sweatshirt, a Heaven sweatshirt is $135.
okay. So, I
Very
mean,
accessible.
if we're talking clothes, like this isn't like Balenciaga, it's $1,000 plus,
No, no, no.
but it's also not the Gap or like Uniqlo or something.
Mhm,
This is serious cash, but
mhm.
it is feasible that a human being might spend $100 on a piece of clothes.
Yes.
So like that's kind of where it's positioned.
Yeah,
Um, and,
exactly.
and I mean, like, what do you think is behind kind of its rise in popularity? Or we can talk about the fact that Michelle LeMay,
Yeah.
the spouse and kind of mentor to Rick Owens, is a model in some of this editorial imagery. And Michelle LeMay, in case you're unfamiliar, you're not looking, she's like a 200-year-old Moroccan woman. Uh, and I'm convinced that she's actually a pharaoh who is immortal and never has
I
died.
believe it.
But she is, she gets around in fashion circles. She's well known because of her influence in her relationship with Rick
Mhm.
Owens.
And I think
If you're
successful as, like, an artist in her own right as
yes,
well. Yeah.
100%. And I want to make that clear.
Mhm.
It would be wrong to call her a muse
But she
because
also is.
yeah. And the ASAP Rocky album, the one after Long Live ASAP, where
Mhm.
he's like this, he has his hands on his face. That's Michelle LeMay inspired then. So it's really curious or interesting to see her modeling for
Mhm.
another brand and what is a brand seemingly targeting young people and is also like
Yeah.
a diffusion line. It's weird.
It's
I'll say
very
that.
I it makes me wonder, like, is it a play to get additional cachet in, like, the luxury hype beast market? Because there's also an interesting thing happening. I was just thinking about this earlier today where uh all of like the guys that were buying like off-white Nike Dunks, they were really obsessed with that. Suddenly they were like they discovered Rick Owens and they were all about like Geo Baskets and Ramones all of a sudden, like overnight, it felt like.
I'm cool
So,
with it, you know.
and I'm good with it. And
Yeah.
so I feel like there's a market, a budding market for a certain type of high luxury clothing. And it makes me wonder if it's a move to kind of get more cred in that realm, or is it just Marc Jacobs really likes her and appreciates her and has a relationship with Rick Owens as well, and it's just friends being friends. I don't know.
I think it has to be that to a larger extent.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that if we're thinking of this as like a gateway drug,
Hmm.
congrats to Marc Jacobs if that's the angle, like get
Yeah.
Zoomers zoot it out on
Hmm. Hmm.
Heaven, and then eventually they'll start
Zoomers
buying.
love zoot suits. Yeah.
Yeah, they do. That's like every TikTok
Right.
they're
Right.
in a zoot suit. They're like, I bought this. It's originally from the 1940s. Uh, it's traditional. But maybe that's the angle.
Hmm.
I guess the bigger question is, and one of the reasons we wanted to bring it up is the brand, more than we've seen for a while. Marc Jacob is getting a lot of buzz from this brand.
Yeah.
What's the reason? Is it just because Y2K has been popular? He has a lot of credibility making that, or maybe a
Hmm.
lot of competency, and it's just supply and demand? Is there something else kind of behind its rise in popularity?
I mean, so this is right. It's a marketing campaign. All of these people were paid for. You can see the list down here: Ice Spice, Lil Uzi Vert, Liv Tyler. It's an absurd lineup. So clearly, these people did not all do this out of the kindness of their heart for their kind feelings towards Marc Jacobs.
You don't think
They're
so?
no, they're getting their bag.
Oh.
So
Why do I keep buying things when I see
I
little Uzi
know,
Vert wearing them
I
then?
know.
I thought he was giving his
Why do you think I have this
official.
hoodie?
Oh no. Oh no. So you're telling me that people do things for money? Yeah.
Mm,
So there's obviously a successful and probably expensive marketing campaign, PR
mhm.
marketing campaign behind it. But I've seen firsthand people will throw hundreds of thousands of dollars at things and it
Yes.
goes nowhere. So there is something actually clicking.
Yeah, I
Uh,
think if I had to put a wager on it, I would say that Marc Jacobs, good designer, the
mhm.
design is good. I like Heaven when I see it. I'm like often like, "Oh, that's cool." You know what I mean?
Okay.
Uh, but also he just happened to catch a very good moment for him. He just
Yes.
found a very good moment for himself. I'm sure I think LVMH owns it or owns a good stake, right?
Yeah, I'm almost certain LVMH owns Marc Jacobs.
Yeah, giant
So they
conglomerate. They own Marc Jacobs or some, majority of it. I'm sure they have tons of analysts on these things that saw, oh, Heaven's picking up steam. Heaven's doing good. Heaven's hitting some trends. And then they throw gasoline on the fire with big, big marketing spend, and it turns into this,
yeah,
yeah.
and that's how it's made. I mean, what do you
That's
think is
me.
what do you think is the what's the so what of this? Do you think that Heaven or Marc Jacobs will start to build more notoriety? I'm trying to remember specifically
Mm,
the premise of Fashion Lovers video, but he was basically arguing that Heaven is a ripoff of another brand. Like
mhm.
it's a full one for one uh, uh, replica friend,
Yeah.
and I guess like that at least is a mark, especially if you want credibility among like true fashion
Mhm.
enthusiasts. But it does seem like Marc Jacobs, who was big star in fashion world,
Mhm.
kind of became a little too commercial. He's coming back up. Is this
Yep.
kind of his revival, or is this a flash in the pan?
I think it's both. I think it's definitely helping him, and I don't think it will really hurt him, but I also think it's destined to disappear at some point. I think it is riding a trend, and I don't necessarily know if it'll be able to. It remains to be seen, but I would be surprised if it really manages to kind of weave its way through ongoing trends to keep its momentum up. I just think look through the history of diffusion lines like, Love Moschino and all of
Hmm.
these things. they all have their moment, it feels like, and there's just a very elite few that managed to make it through that battlefield. But so I think it will fail eventually, but that it's
Okay.
helping him and that it won't hurt him in the long run.
I I'm sure when he's wiping his tears with all the millions of dollars he has,
Right.
I'm sure he'll be fine. You know, I'm sure Marc
Yeah,
Jacobs, he probably like
exactly.
has like a gigantic penthouse in Soho. He
Oh,
has every
100%.
he has every kiss boot they ever made.
Mhm.
Um, and you know, this is one thing I will say about Marc Jacobs. He's
Mhm.
always come off as a fashion enthusiast. He's always come off as somebody
Yeah.
who loves fashion, like as a person as well as being a designer of fashion. And that's I like that. I like that. And because you know, you see some designers and I
Oh,
get
yeah.
it. At the on runway shows, they're running around. They're
Mhm.
like doing hit somersaults. I don't expect everybody to be dripped out, but some designers are really just focused on the craft of designing, and it's
Mhm.
not about like personal expression for them. And Marc Jacobs, he is about designing, and he wants to get a fit off, and that's
Yeah.
it's
He
okay with me.
partakes.
Yeah,
He partakes. You know, he's a guy that gets high on his own supply and other supplies.
yeah.
You know what else I
Speaking
also
of,
like about Marc Jacobs?
yes.
Good hair.
Oh,
Man's
does
got
he?
he's got a nice mop, you know what I mean?
Hold on, before you even keep going, I know this is a segue. Pull up a picture of Marc Jacobs.
All right, all right.
I want to see if he has good hair. And for everybody just listening, I will describe in detail what Marc Jacobs looks like.
Please, please.
Okay,
Da, 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 da. Should I
man,
just
the
do like
man.
headshot?
Okay,
It's
I
not how you
like how you
spell
spelled
head,
it.
but okay.
Okay, okay. He is a Caucasian man. That means white.
Mhm.
Middle aged, but he looks like he either gets work done or moisturizes. And there's
Mhm.
save that for a second. Um, I would say he has good hair. I mean, he is kind of he's got hair. Yeah, he's got a full head of hair. A lot of people experience male pattern
Right,
baldness, and he
right.
hasn't.
And you
Um,
know that he must be doing something, right? Because it seems like everybody is doing something these
yeah.
days with the follicles and the pores and
Hmm.
the
Every
I'm
kind of
talking about
hole.
hair and skin here, people.
Yes. So we've got on screen L'Oreal to acquire Aesop. And I
Mhm.
don't mean the Greek fables.
No,
I
no, no,
mean
no.
the brand. Um, so L'Oreal is obviously the creators of the smoothie shampoo that they had in the 90s that came
Mhm.
in the fish bottle. And
Right.
they are a massive beauty conglomerate. And Aesop is the soap that you have in your bathroom when you've truly made it. When you are
Right.
so rich that you can spend $50 on a bottle of soap for your bathroom.
And I think
Um,
they do like luxury collabs and stuff too, right? If I remember
yes.
correctly, like that there are not many soap brands that are doing big time collabs. Like they're on a special level here.
Yes, and I mean, if you ever go into an Aesop, I mean, we're looking at it right now.
Mhm.
It's like it is kind of what you would expect from high fashion, but it's in the kind of like moisturizer soap department. Like their stores are like very chic and like understated. It smells incredible in there. It is it's one of those brands where it's
Mhm.
like you know, sometimes somebody might get you something from Lush or like
Yeah.
Bed Bath or Bath and Body Works. And you're like, oh, this is really nice, thank
Right.
you. But if they get you something from Aesop, it's like, whoa, you
Whoa,
spent
whoa, whoa, whoa,
seventy
whoa.
dollars on this much? That's incredible.
Is this creme de la mer?
Yeah, it's this is the creme de la creme. So, I mean, it makes a lot of sense for L'Oreal to
Yeah.
purchase this brand. It's well known. It is kind of in the top tier in terms of the price range, and it does come off as very fashion. But Killian, one of the reasons you wanted to talk to me about this
Mhm.
was, and I wish that Slav guy was still trying to bully
Ugh.
me because I had a point, I had a reason,
We
I
got something to
planted it.
tell him.
I found somebody who used to make fun of me in middle school, and I said, "Hey, you want to come on my podcast?" Um, we were talking about this before we got on,
Mhm.
and despite the fact that we're, you know, not, we're like, oh, ooh, we're like nerds. We're two cis men for all intents and purposes, and
Crazy, right?
the skincare game is not my bag. Uh,
No.
we just wanted to like kind of confess and talk about like, will there be a point where you can't be interested in fashion unless you are also interested in beauty?
I'm
Because
seeing it pop up. Like, I'll be in my recommended feed, and there will be, like, fashion YouTubers being like, "My my hair and skin, get ready with me, my routine for my beautiful locks and skin." And it's
yeah,
like, it'll be other, like, straight men, or not, right? But
I don't know.
everybody in this a lot of people in this game are getting into that game, it feels
Yes,
like, and it's
and
new.
I mean, I think that caring about this stuff. First off, if anybody's listening, and I want to say this to the Slav guy too. Listen, it's
Mhm,
okay.
mhm.
It's okay, really. If you want to do any of these things, and that's how you express yourself, and even if you just want to have sex with women, but you put lotion on your skin and you put stuff in your hair and you wear perfumes, that's cool. Just do
Hell
whatever
yeah.
you want. Being a man means living by your own rules. So
I
just a
guarantee
PSA.
I'm sure I would
Um,
look and feel better if I took more care of my hair and skin.
in my
It
body
reminds
and my
me, there
sleep
was
and my
for
sorry.
no, that's totally okay. For the longest time in my life, I, did not do, like, exercise or anything. Like, I was not a gym person.
Yeah.
I just, like, lived my life up until, maybe I got out of college or whatever. And I remember looking at that, thinking to myself, like, I'm never gonna be a gym person. I'm not a
I
person that,
mean,
like, cares about my figure or whatever. And that is how I am right now about hair and skin, you know?
okay. And I assume at one point you realized, well, I have to care about my figure
Yes,
because it
right.
is better to look good than it is to feel good. You
Exactly.
must go to the gym. It's not about, I don't care about your heart. I don't care about
Mhm,
your health.
mhm.
It's about how the clothes fit on your body. It's about
Right.
getting a fit off. So
Yes.
for that reason, for those reasons and more. I mean, if you look at me, other than everything else you can make fun of, you can tell that I have a distinctive under eye
Mm.
bags. So
Ooh.
I'm interested. If somebody tried to pitch me
Mhm,
on skincare and they
mhm.
convinced me, they said like we can get rid of that,
Yeah.
I would listen.
Mhm,
I went to the dermatologist for this health thing. I'm not going to get into it, but
mhm.
it was the first time I went to this doctor, and they looked at me and they're like, "Are your eyes always like that?" I said, "Yes, they are. Can you fix it?" She didn't have an
That's
answer.
rough. That's
I
rough.
mean, it's not the first time. And she's a doctor. She was a doctor.
Mhm.
Yes, I know. Um, but one,
Christian, he didn't finish reading it. We got a comment that said Steve Buscemi's long lost child. I just need to make sure that was on the record, okay?
on the record, I look like Steve
Now,
Buscemi.
Christian, I know you hate compliments. They just make
I
you
do.
vomit. You
I
hate
do.
when people tell you you're pretty or smart or anything.
It doesn't happen a lot. So,
But you've
where are you going
got
with this?
nice hair, Christian.
What word?
You've got some
Pew pew
nice
pew.
hair, okay?
Yes.
I've read your comments. I know people like it.
Yeah. I
So
think
what do you
that
do?
I think it is, and this is kind of like our beauty and whatever episode. Listen, if you start caring about fashion, there comes a point where you might start caring about the parts of your body that aren't fashion. And one of those, I guess, step number one is hair. And the first thing I would say is everybody's hair is like big different. Everybody has a different
Yeah.
texture of hair. Even if you are white, you can have a different texture than another white person, believe it or not. Um, but I would say like that's at least sometimes people comment on my videos and they're like, "What do you do? Tell me your hair." And, and I
Right.
would like I don't know. It would be a really short video. I don't know what else to say other than what I've done, and this is the
Mhm.
only thing that works. And also, results may vary. Like this could totally look dumb on you just because of your hair.
I
Um,
remember how much of a bummer it was. Like I would go to the barber when I was younger with like pictures. Like I'd show him my phone, like, give me this. This looks so cool. Do that. And I
Yeah.
thought they were just like trash because it never came out right. You know what I mean? And then
Yeah.
you slowly realize, oh, my hair is just not what I want it to be, and it never
Oh.
will be.
Oh. I
Welcome to my trauma, Christian.
So, if for anybody just listening, I have brown hair. I have
Mhm,
luckily a full hair
mhm,
headline of hair, not receding, and I just do it in what you could call a pompadour. But
mhm.
the problem is, this is the only hairstyle that I know works on me. That
Yeah.
or shaving my head. I have tried other stuff, and it's kind of mixed results.
Mhm.
And when I first started doing this haircut, everybody's like, "Oh, you're Edward from Twilight," and that
Right,
wasn't
right.
cool yet. It wasn't cool to be Robert Pattinson at the
Mhm.
time. It was lame. Um, but this is the only thing I know how to do. And in case anybody's wondering, it's really simple. You wash your hair with soap and water. What I do is I actually blow dry it. That's how I get it like this, and then I
Oh,
put the
okay, that
product
makes
in.
sense. See,
Yeah,
that's
it's
even a
really
step
straightforward.
further than, like, I've ever gone. I'll say,
Yeah,
just to throw at you,
go
you've
ahead.
got the Edward Cullen hair. My natural hairstyle is like Justin Bieber when he first popped off on YouTube at 13 years
Nice,
old. That
nice,
is how my
nice.
hair naturally sits. It's what I'm cursed with. It was not a curse when Justin Bieber was popping off at 13 years old, and that's what everyone thought was cool. But now, no more.
It looks like Rachel Ward. I'll point out. Asked me, "Do you miss your mullet?" I did have a mullet. I did it. I did a mullet. Um, I guess
Ballsy, ballsy.
if anybody's interested, there are some videos. I'm trying to think of which ones. Maybe the one I did a real tree camo video. If you want to see the
Mm.
mullet, I believe I have a mullet in that in that timeline. Uh, I live in Brooklyn, Bushwick specifically. It's the mullet capital of the world. It has usurped Tennessee and all the other southern states for mullet capital because
It's all appropriation, okay? Those guys did it first.
every boy, girl, and everything in between has a mullet here. Um, but I mean that worked. That hairstyle, like I was able to pull that off. I think
Mhm,
that at the end of the day, I hair is still elusive to me because I can only know how to do the one thing,
mhm.
and whenever I try to do something else, it ends up looking bad. So
Right.
I want like a hair wizard to come and just like tell us what to do.
You ever
Um,
have those I feel like there are so many moments like that throughout my life where you're just like, "Just give me that person that the rich people have.
yeah, just
Give
give me
me
the
that
person the rich
give
person
me that
has.
stylist, that personal shopper, that barber, that hairstylist, that personal trainer."
Fitness guy, that
Yeah,
yeah, that therapist, that agent, that career
right.
coach, that money advisor.
Ooh,
Um,
that's a good I want that. Yeah.
did we make a point with this segment? It was just kind of me talking about I don't know how I feel about these things.
Yeah, I think it was literally just for us to say that we are the out of step ones here. We're watching
Yes.
this happen from afar with curiosity, I feel like.
I mean that's the thing actually, because if I have to say anything, it's clear that younger men now, young men and boys and everything in betwixt,
Mhm,
are really gun ho. They People who are Zoomers are really a lot more like I don't know, courageous and invested in
mhm.
caring about their skin and their hair. And I can't wait to see the haircuts.
And this is another thing actually, I think was it with Aesop or was it with someone else that Rick Owens did like the soap collab?
It feels like it would be Aesop, but I don't remember.
Yeah, and I feel like that's again like one of the first things I saw, like these people who suddenly descended on Rick Owens and got super into his stuff. Like they're like, "Oh, Rick Owens did a soap, did a shampoo or whatever. Like, let's check this out. Let's see what's up." You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm always trying. He's I wish him all the world and the best, Rick. But
That
I,
rich.
I fear, like I was just looking at analytics, and I fear like
Mhm.
our audience ship just like dipped because we're not even talking about anything.
Okay, here we go. So
Next segment.
very excited here, okay? Because
Okay.
we have a returning feature here. Our Yes, our segment for the week. I had a blast with this one last week. I don't know about you.
I love it. So, in case you guys are listening, or maybe you're new,
Mhm.
this is what do we call it?
The Brandomizer.
The Brandomizer. We have on this very wheel a list of fashion brands, typically high fashion. And the idea is that, there are a lot of obnoxious brands out there that are always getting the limelight. Like,
Mhm, mhm.
I seem to talk about Rick Owens in anything that I do on the internet.
Right.
And when was the last time I even wore Rick Owens in a video? Never. But there are brands that we don't talk about, but they're still interesting, or they're not interesting. We should say why, and they go on the Brandomizer.
Yeah, so we'll give it a spin. We'll talk about whatever brand it lands on, and then once we're done, we'll ask you guys in the audience for a new one so we can fill
Yeah,
that slot up for next
yeah,
time.
yeah,
Ready
yeah.
to spin?
Spin that wheel.
Spin. Here we go. She's
Spin that
going.
wheel. Spin the wheel.
What are we
Let's
gonna
see
get? We
which
did
one we get
L'Enfant.
today.
That's a big one.
Valentino.
That's a
My
big one.
Valentino. My Valentino bag. That's a meme. That's a meme
Fire
where,
meme.
yes, there's this person who pretends to ruin their mother's Valentino bag,
Mhm.
and then the mother starts to scream.
And
It's
the mother
funny.
sounds exactly like what's her name from White Lotus, Stifler's mom.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
The
Good point.
voice like
Very,
identical.
very Valentino of her.
Yes.
So the point is, we landed on this. We got to talk about this brand that doesn't get enough limelight, get enough attention. Valentino, the heritage Italian fashion house.
So
Uh,
where should we start here, do you think?
I mean, I could just talk about like the first things that pop in my head. I
Hit it.
think that if you're like a rich person in New York and you just buy a bunch of things, you probably know Valentino through their studded accessories.
Right.
Valentino's well known for their studded footwear, their studded bags. This was something that they were pretty trendy with for a while.
Yep.
It's a Italian fashion house that does, runway. I'm almost certain they do have a couture line, like a legit
I believe
couture.
so. Yes.
A few years ago, there was one collection by Valentino that was like on all the mood boards. It was considered like the one of the hot collections, and it was the one where they had a lot of garments that were embroidered with like astrological or like the kind of like space universe designs that
Mhm.
I think is pretty iconic. Um, I don't know what you would Google to find it. You got Valentino. We just looked at Valentino astronomy, not astrology. Try maybe that one. That one. I'm sorry. The black coat. To yes, click that. Yeah, yeah. I'm pretty sure that was the collection I'm thinking of. There's a lot of pieces. We're looking at like a navy overcoat, a woman in a navy
Mhm.
overcoat, and it's got like star and moon designs on it. That was a big collection. That collection was a
Mhm.
hit, and people were definitely excited about it. But I would agree that, well, I don't think anybody would. There are other brands on the Brandomizer that I think people might not recognize. Like they would be like,
Yeah.
if you're not in fashion, you just don't know it.
Mhm.
And there are probably brands that people would be like, I don't know if it's actually good. But I think
Right.
Valentino, despite it being often low key, I think it's credible. It's credible. Like
Yeah.
normal people know Valentino is an expensive Italian brand.
Yeah.
Um, but it's been like a low key, low burner. It's
To
not.
me, yeah, I would say Valentino for me has consistently, like almost without fail, been like a solid B to B plus at all times, forever and always. You
Can
know what
you
I mean?
Oh, Serious Slav is still here. Okay.
No.
This I want to put up the comment Nectarine Man said because I
Okay.
think it's pretty good. I feel Valentino was popping off 4 or 5 years ago during the camo and rock runners phase, and that's a great point. The rock
Yes.
runners were like a big hot thing. And this is like a la streetwear, kind of like the streetwear and high fashion was just happening in fashion. So people like every high fashion brand was doing their own sneaker.
Yeah.
And I agree that the Rock Runners, that was like one of those sneakers where it was like, this is like one of the hot pieces. So I 100% agree with that. And it's kind of curious. It's like there was a bunch of stuff that Valentino was doing that seemed to be like very trendy,
Mhm.
very much Instagram and all over social media. But I feel like they at some point they have kind of fallen off. They're not.
Yeah.
I think if you ask me right now, like what is a hot
Hmm.
collection or item from one of the
Right.
recent shows, I'm like, I don't know.
And I think, I actually think there's an interesting disconnect here within Valentino that actually reminds me quite a bit of what was going on towards the end of Alessandro Michele at Gucci. At
Yeah.
Gucci, I always felt this disconnect of Michele's runway stuff and then like just the brand, I think with zero involvement from him really doing like the heritage GG
Uh-huh.
monogram canvas everything. You know what I mean? Like Disney collaborations, whatever. And I
Yeah.
think Valentino has a similar thing where Pier Paolo Piccoli, right, is the designer over there. He seems like a very like couture runway minded
Mhm.
type of designer.
Yeah.
Very craftsmanship, materials, um, techniques, color stories, all
Oh,
that
sure.
stuff that these people think about. And then there's a very product oriented side to the brand that was popping hard with anything rock stud, just
Yeah.
anything with a big V monogram, whatever, uh,
My Valentino bag. I
my
can't believe
Valentino
it.
bag.
Yeah.
And I think maybe the commercial stuff has dropped off a little bit. Like you're just not seeing those out in the world as much. So basically, what's left is the much more highfalutin runway kind of stuff, which I think is still as good as ever. I never loved it, but I definitely never hated it.
Yeah.
Um, and it's just in that kind of more refined space that just doesn't get as much attention.
I think Christopher made a good comment as well.
Mhm.
He said Valentino is a brand I pay zero attention to, but will come across really cool pieces randomly.
Right.
I kind of feel like that's the vibe. It's like it exists as a brand that I am like not looking for, but if somebody showed me a piece for them, I'm like, that's great. Yeah, I love that.
Right.
Really
Right.
cool. I think that, and this is just I guess the story with every fashion label right
Mhm.
now, there is probably going to come a point where maybe they stop being just kind of coasting profitability.
Mhm.
Whatever conglomerate owns them is going to say, "Get me that young designer who's going to Gucciify,
Right.
Balenciagafy, XXX." Like there's. I feel like Valentino will just be on the chopping block of a heritage brand that needs to be revitalized,
And
and I'm
interestingly
sure we'll
enough,
see it.
I think the new creative director for Gucci, who we've not seen anything from yet, was like the number two like right hand person at
Yeah.
Valentino. So
I
that'll be
believe that.
curious to see, are they bringing anything over, or maybe was that the more commercially minded designer at the house and Gucci just sniped them? Because obviously Gucci's very interested in just blasting out tons of very marketable product, right?
They're interested in money, and
Yes.
I don't blame them.
No, no, no.
I'm interested in money. Um, so without further ado, what I would love for the people watching in the comments to do, tell us what brand you think is not discussed a lot for us to
Hmm.
add in Valentino's place.
Yes. So we are
So
going to
comment.
remove Valentino from the brandomizer.
Yes, yes,
It's
yes.
gone. It's
It's
gone.
gone.
And we need a
We
new
need. Let's hear it.
need that new
Here's
new.
some. We've got Balmain as an option. Do we have that on
Ooh,
here
Belmont.
already?
I actually don't think we do have it on there.
It's a
We do not.
pretty good one. Shunya Watanabe. I don't know. I feel like I talk about him a lot. But maybe save that one next
We'll
time.
say
Maybe
it. Yeah,
we'll add it.
we'll definitely pop that one in next
But
time.
Balmain has like a similar vibe. Well, I could talk more about Balmain. I feel like I have more things to say than I even would for Valentino. Loewe, no. Loewe is popular. Mew
Oh,
Mew, that's
come
Yoji,
on,
come
everybody.
on. These are popular ones. No, I really appreciate it. Everyone
No, it's
commenting.
great. But I
It's great. I
guarantee
love
we have
you.
talked about Loewe, and I'm sure we'll talk about Loewe many times in the future without
Yeah.
needing to put them in the brandomizer. Mew Mew
They
is an interesting one because I think it's just women's wear still at this point, right?
it's Mew Mew is a good example of that's technically a diffusion line. What are you going
Yes.
to do now, Killian? You said diffusion lines are cancer and nobody will ever succeed making them. And you're a fool. You're a moron. It's a diffusion line.
I'm going to
Mucha
change the
Prada.
subject. I'm going to change the subject and talk about Yoji Yamamoto. Because have you ever been to Yoji Yamamoto's website?
Caroline won't let me go on there.
Yoji Yamamoto has like 80 diffusion lines.
Yes.
It's absurd. Like
He's just like
sight,
everything.
wise, ground Y,
Yeah. Bing
Gothic.
bong, bing, ding, bong, bing. It's like I feel like for anybody who wants to just like remain in real life, all you need to know is Yoji Yamamoto, the real one, Y3, his Adidas collaboration, and Wise, the diffusion line.
Right.
That's like the most popular diffusion line. Crocs. Oh, that was a good option. We should add Crocs.
Crocs.
Yeah. Yoji Yamamoto has a lot of diffusion lines.
I need to count these. So we've got sight. We have Wise. New Era.
That's just is that a collab more like?
That's a collab. Ground Y is not a collab. That's a diffusion line.
Yeah.
Mainline.
Mainline. That's just a collab. Like
I have no idea what that is.
Recommended for you.
Oh, come on. There's more. Here we go. There it is.
Okay.
Oh, boy.
We got Wise and we got Wise ellipsis with more than one dot. So it's like ellipsis period. There's Limi. There's Yoji Yamamoto. Poor Ohm is just men's. It's
this one right here is Discord. That's another random one.
That's his line exclusively for Discord, like for the people on Discords. And,
for the gamers.
For the gamers out there. Other item, vintage, which I think might be interesting.
That's actually, right.
I have a point to make about like them so many lines. I think because, I mean, Rei Kawakubo and Yoji Yamamoto kind of came up at the same time. They dated, and they kind of established a lot of, like, they established the same kind of scene in terms of avant-garde / Japanese fashion.
Yeah.
And Rei Kawakubo has, if she had a penny for every diffusion line, then she would have a million pennies. Like Comme des Garçons has a trillion diffusions. Comme des Garçons black, Comme des Garçons white, Comme des Garçons shirt, Comme des Garçons play, Comme des Garçons man, Comme des Garçons homme, Comme des Garçons homme deux, Comme des Garçons Comme des Garçons homme plus.
Yes.
Comme des Garçons
CDG.
Yeah, like Comme des Garçons, the Dover Street Market edition. So there has to be something there. Maybe at some point in like the 80s or 70s in Japan, the two of them said, listen, you have to make as many brands as possible. It's not about one. It's about just a million, a trillion.
They're like, they were looking at Europe and they were like, LVMH, like caring conglomerates. We can be the conglomerate.
We can do that. I'll just keep making brands. But I think what's kind of remarkable, is like, if you ask me, Comme des Garçons and Yoji Yamamoto, I do not think they have lost any credibility in terms of the value of their lines, like their main collection. And that's acknowledging that Comme des Garçons play exists and is memed into oblivion. And then still, I think that Comme des Garçons has maintained entirely their legitimacy, because at least those two brands are both very expensive, very avant-garde. So nobody's mad at them. But
they keep that like authenticity within it so that you can't come at them too hard. So this is anybody, whatever you want to talk about. We've hit that part of the show where we want to hear from
Yes.
you. Serious Slav, I don't know if he is trying to, if this is like a dog whistle or something, like fascist Hugo
Wait,
Boss stuff.
is he Adolf Drippler? Are you Adolf
Oh,
Drippler? I've been looking for that guy. He comments on my videos. He's a terror. He terrorizes me. He's a Nazi.
Hugo
Hugo
Boss was
Boss.
a Nazi.
Yes, Hugo Boss was a Nazi. Here's a fun fact. Think of
Wild.
any brands that existed in Germany in the
Mhm.
40s. They were Nazis. All of them.
What?
Yes.
What?
It's like I'm sorry. It doesn't mean you can't buy a Mercedes Benz, but it was a Nazi thing.
Yeah.
We did a fit breakdown in the beginning, Marvin. I'm sorry that you
You'll
asked
have to
that,
watch
but
the VOD.
hold
Yeah.
on.
Listen,
I'll just give you the abridged.
please.
The undercover Supreme hat, Mike Amiri hoodie,
Yep.
Random Identities Cuban link,
There we go.
and I'm wearing the same sweatshirt that I have worn for years.
What is that?
I think it's like American Apparel or LA Apparel.
All right. Okay.
It's just like a shirt sleeve sweatshirt. I like it. It's holds up.
So
Any brands,
Suchio, yeah, go ahead.
any brands that survived World War II were shacked with Nazis. Are there? I assume. It's a good question. I don't. Well, Hugo Boss, I think, has its target demographic. I think that they're a successful brand.
Yeah.
I think it would be kind of a waste of time to be upset at them for the Nazi past. But I say that, and I don't know if Hugo Boss has done anything to amend its past. But I just don't.
Yeah.
It's like not buying a Volkswagen because
I actually haven't researched it. I would be curious, like, what is the ownership structure now? Where Hugo Boss the man to Hugo Boss the brand now? What's the chain? Because these things obviously they pass hands, they pass through holding companies, they pass through generations of families. I have no idea where things have landed with Hugo Boss at this point.
Yeah, and I mean, the list of German brands, German fashion brands that I immediately think of is sometimes short, but it's like, uh, yes, that is true. Chanel was a
Chanel, Louis
Nazi spy.
Vuitton, Balenciaga. The
Yeah,
Europeans and the Nazis, often got pretty close.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
unfortunate.
That's a bummer, right? But I don't know. At least Christian Dior, I'm almost certain wasn't because he wasn't designing clothes yet. So
Mm.
he's in the clear.
Saint Laurent got away scot-free.
Scott Free, he was probably like 12.
Exactly.
If he was like an adult, like in his 30s, maybe in the 70s, he's probably a child. The
So
30.
Marvin, I think Amiri's kind of goofy, but we went over really quickly earlier. Every once in a while they will just have one piece, and I'm like, oh, that's actually fine. And if it's cheap, I'm good with fine.
Wait, did he say Amiri or American?
He corrected himself to Amiri.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah, I mean, we talked about it earlier. Amiri is. Well, we'll get him on the pod. We'll get Mike Amiri
Yeah,
on the
we're getting
pod.
him. Don't worry.
Is Ford a Nazi since Henry? Yes. I'm
Yes.
serious, Slav. I'm glad you did bring this up. Listen, Henry Ford was an American pioneer. He transformed the world, and we should, value what he did that was useful and important. But he was a very outspoken anti-Semite. He published multiple anti-Semitic
Yeah.
books and newspapers.
Yes.
There is apparently, and I read about this, but it has not been released. Apparently, there is video footage of Henry Ford and Hitler hanging out. That's in the Henry Ford archives.
I just love that comment so much. It's like, whoa, you're gonna call H.P. Lovecraft a racist now?
I mean, yes, of course he is.
Of course.
Do you read?
Yes. The answer is yes.
That doesn't mean that Black people don't read and enjoy his stories, but
Right.
it's like guy was super racist.
Sorry, Christopher asks, maybe you should get Ye on the pod for his input. And I think this is an interesting question.
Because,
If
obviously we've been in the talks.
completely hypothetically, as in reality, because yes, we've been in talks.
Yeah.
if crazy situation, Ye was like, "Oh, let me come on." What do you say?
Like me? Are you asking? Like you're just asking
Literally.
me?
Yes,
Okay.
you.
Everybody. We're not live anymore, right?
No, no, no.
Okay. Listen. If Kanye wants to be on this podcast,
Mhm.
I don't care. Get him on. I will sell out like that. I will become a bigot like that for publicity and money. I love it. I love what he thinks. But in real life, if like a little bit more, if somehow in some bizarre world the artist formerly known as Kanye West
Mhm.
wanted to be on our podcast,
Mhm.
I think it would be like insane for us not to an
Right.
extent because like as Slav was saying, as he was trolling us earlier, we've got a handful
Yeah.
of viewers. If
Yeah.
Kanye came on, it would fundamentally change how many people might be watching this. But
It's
at the
like that
same
question.
time,
It's like
it's
that
like,
question where they're like, "Oh, would you suck a dick for $1 billion?" It's like,
and it's
well,
like,
I
yes,
normally am not in the business of sucking dicks, but yes,
but
of
for a
course, of
billion,
course, a
that
billion,
that one act would secure the future of my grandchildren
right?
and their children.
I could take a dick for my grandchildren, okay?
That's 1,000 millions. Yes. Okay. Sorry, I'll learn. I'll practice. I'll do it for $1 billion. Yes. Okay. Would you do it for? No, I said a billion.
We're
I
not
the
playing that
problem is,
game. We know a billion is up there. We're not playing high low anymore.
yeah, yeah. The problem with the Kanye West thing or the
Yeah.
Ye thing is obviously it's like, well, there's so much potential in having him on,
Hmm.
but he would almost certainly railroad us and just start
Yeah.
saying like horrendous things based on how he's been acting recently. And that would suck, not just because we gave a platform
Yeah.
for a anti-Semite, but it's like what would this be other than the bias cut? They had 10 episodes where a few people watched, but really everybody knows that they were just Nazi sympathizers.
I think
Um,
real talk, I think maybe the move would be to bring on like a ringer, like a Hassan or something,
yeah, yeah.
just to jump in for when it
And,
gets too hot on the political side.
and that's the thing is like we message him, we somehow get in contact. I mean, we can pull some strings. It could
Yeah.
happen,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
we're like, listen, I am going to have Kanye West on here. You come in, you can debate with him. Well, he probably won't go off immediately, and maybe that's worth it, dude. Maybe that's worth it for you. That's great
Right. Right.
clips. You're so huge that will almost certainly go viral. A clip of you yelling at Ye, you don't, and we're just like two squares underneath. It's fine. I'm glad. Maybe that's the
Exactly.
angle.
That's the angle.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Literally, that
And
would be the move.
and then Kanye would be like, "You're not a socialist. You have money," and he'll be like, "You know how they
I'm
are."
sorry for buying a house, man.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I like to live. How did he just got popular from talking, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, real talk, I think his uncle is the Young Turks owner, host guy.
Oh,
So I think that was like kind of his in.
nepotism,
Nepotism.
nepotism. But
Hassan is a nepo baby. You heard it here first.
he's good looking. He's good looking.
I mean,
So
yeah.
yeah, yeah. Pull up a picture of Hassan to
Let's
end
see.
to end us out. For everybody still watching.
Hassan drip.
We
What
are
do we got?
drip. That's stupid. That's
There
the
you
dumbest
go.
thing I've ever seen.
Here we go.
I mean, dumb, but you can tell that his face is he's an attractive man. Clearly.
There you go.
Yeah, yeah, he's
Yeah.
hot.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh, this is a lineup right here. Okay, we got
yeah.
canceled Andrew Callahan
Andrew
over
Callahan,
here.
he's canceled, I'm sure. I don't even need to know why. Of course
Mhm.
he is.
Of
Anybody
course.
who does anything of interest
Right.
is
Right.
canceled. Anyway,
We'll have to save the Hassan drip review for
yeah, Hassan drip
next
review.
time. Hassan goes viral for putting his foot in his mouth. We'll do a drip review.
Yeah. Because like honestly, I'll let you guys in behind the scenes. We
Yeah.
weren't sure what we were going to talk about today,
Mm-mm.
so we need to make sure we don't burn through too much content.
Right, right.
Okay. Um,
And on that note,
it's time,
it's
guys. My
time.
bedtime is soon.
We're sleepy.
Yeah, we're sleepy. You've been listening or watching the bias cut. We'll repeat it again. If you're listening to this at another time, you should join us on Thursdays at 8
Mm-hmm.
because that's when we do it live, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Damn right.
My name's Christian. You can find me Brave New Wear on YouTube or my name Christian_Shabetta at Instagram.
I'm Killian. You can find me at Low Luxury on YouTube and Instagram and all that stuff.
YouTuber drip reveal. That's a good idea,
YouTuber.
Blanks.
It is a good idea. We'll do it. We'll do it.
Yeah.
All
You
right,
know
bye.
I will.
Marvin says bye, and we'll say bye back. Goodbye, Marvin.
Bye, everyone. See ya.